Tucked away, almost hidden, within the grand and ancient heart of Rome, there exists a place that defies its size with the weight of its significance, Vatican City. It spans little more than 100 acres, barely visible on a map compared to the nations that surround it. Yet its name carries across continents and oceans, whispered in prayers, spoken in ceremonies, and etched into the history of civilizations. This tiny city-state, the smallest in the world, has stood for centuries as the epicenter of a vast and enduring faith. But the story of how this miniature state rose to such spiritual prominence is a journey of sacrifice, power, resilience, and unwavering devotion. And so too is the question, why, after all these centuries, do popes still find themselves appointed here, beneath its timeless sky? The origins of Vatican City stretch far back into a time when Rome was the seat of an empire and Christianity was but a fragile flame flickering in the winds of persecution. In those early days, among the small band of believers who dared to carry forward the teachings of Christ, stood Peter, a fisherman from distant Galilee who had walked beside Jesus, witnessed miracles, and, in moments of weakness, denied and later reaffirmed his faith. It was Peter who traveled to Rome, the heart of the empire, carrying with him the message of a new kingdom not built by human hands. But Rome, in those times, was a place of iron and blood. Under the rule of Emperor Nero, Christians were seen as a dangerous sect, a threat to the established order. Peter was arrested, and, according to tradition, sentenced to a death as brutal as it was symbolic. Out of humility, he requested to be crucified upside down, feeling himself unworthy to die in the same manner as his master. His final resting place was a modest grave on the Vatican Hill, a desolate area just beyond the city's walls, overlooked by the grandeur of Rome, yet destined to become more important than any imperial palace. As the years turned to decades and then centuries, the memory of Peter's sacrifice did not fade, it grew. The faithful returned to his tomb, again and again, seeking a connection to the apostle who had laid the foundations of their belief with his very life. In the 4th century, a monumental shift occurred. Emperor Constantine, the first Roman emperor to embrace Christianity, sought to honor the faith that had endured so much. He commissioned the construction of a magnificent basilica over Peter's burial site. St. Peter's Basilica was not simply a structure of stone and mortar, it was a declaration to the world that the faith of fishermen and martyrs had triumphed over the power of emperors. Through the passing centuries, the Bishop of Rome, the Pope, grew not only in religious importance but also in earthly power. The Papal States, sprawling across the Italian peninsula, placed the Pope among the temporal rulers of the medieval world. He was no longer just a spiritual guide but a political figure whose influence could sway kings and dictate the fates of nations. Thrones rose and fell, but the seat of Peter endured, its authority both spiritual and sovereign. But no power on earth remains unchallenged forever. In the 19th century, the forces of nationalism surged through Europe, and Italy, fragmented and longing for unity, turned its gaze toward the territories held by the Church. The Papal States were seized, and the Pope found himself stripped of worldly dominions. For decades, the pontiffs considered themselves prisoners within the Vatican's ancient walls, refusing to recognize the authority of the Italian state. Within the courtyards and chapels of Vatican City, a silence hung heavy, a silence filled with mourning for lost power, but also with a steadfast determination to preserve the spiritual mission that no sword could conquer. It was not until 1929, after long years of tension, that an accord was reached. The Lateran Treaty, signed between the Holy See and the Kingdom of Italy, gave birth to Vatican City as an independent sovereign state. The Pope, no longer a ruler of sprawling lands, became the sovereign of a city so small that one could walk its length in minutes, yet a city whose importance could not be measured by geography. Here, protected by independence, the papacy could fulfill its spiritual mission without fear of worldly domination. Yet, even with sovereignty secured, one might still ask, why must the popes be appointed here, in this one place, and not elsewhere? The answer lies not in politics but in the very bones of faith itself. It lies with Peter, the humble fisherman, whose body rests beneath the great dome of St. Peter's Basilica. It lies in the belief that the Pope is Peter's successor, chosen to carry forward the same torch of faith that was first lit in the shadow of imperial Rome. To be the Bishop of Rome is to step into Peter's sandals, to walk the path he walked, to bear the weight he bore. No other place in the world could serve as the cradle for this sacred succession. The appointment of a pope is a moment of global significance, yet it unfolds in an atmosphere of ancient ritual and profound secrecy. When the time comes, the College of Cardinals gathers from every corner of the earth, entering the solemn conclave within the Sistine Chapel. Behind heavy doors, far from the reach of the outside world, they pray, they deliberate, and they vote. Each ballot cast is a whisper to history, a plea for guidance. Smoke rises from a small chimney, first black, then white, signaling to the watching world that a decision has been made. In that moment, within the small confines of Vatican City, a new chapter begins, and a tradition older than kingdoms is renewed. Today, Vatican City stands not merely as a relic of the past, but as a living testament to endurance. In a world of shifting borders and fleeting empires, it remains, small, ancient, steadfast. Its stones whisper of Peter, of Constantine, of generations of faithful who carried their hopes and prayers through war, through peace, through every season of human triumph and tragedy. It is a place where the sacred and the temporal meet, where history is not a thing of the past but a living, breathing presence. The history of Vatican City is not merely a tale of treaties and politics. It is the story of a grave turned into a beacon, of a fisherman whose humble sacrifice outlasted emperors, kings, and armies. It is the story of faith woven into stone and tradition carried across millennia. And even today, every time a new pope steps forward onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, he steps into that story, into a legacy as vast and enduring as the heavens above.